All right, so here we go. So the other day, I made this my strategy this weekend, and you can find that video on my YouTube at Entrenched Trader, and you can find it, or you can find it on my Twitter at entrenched underscore. So what we discussed there, I don't even know why it's not there anymore. Oh, it's probably somewhere far away. Okay, either way, it was around here. Oh yeah, here we go. Look at how far it is. It was on Saturday morning at 3 in the morning. I was working diligently at that time because I was trying to begin the early stages of the track, or I start to track the beast is like how I like to characterize it, and really the way it moves will kind of sometimes dictate to me what may or may not happen, right? So at the time, I was like, well, I see the potential for a very lucrative trade coming from here to here. Now, that's where we start. We started with the idea, the hypothesis that there is a potential for a lucrative trade. I mean, there's potentials for millions of trades. It's not just this one, but I was like, you know what? In my mind, I'm like, if there's a possibility to get the best trade potentially of this whole sequence, we can run from here. We could have ran from here. We could run from here, the midpoint. We could run from down here. All very good trades in their own right. But which one was going to net the most? That was really the question, right? And what would we need to see to kind of like put us at ease and be like, okay, well, all right, it's possible that we do get something very nice, right? So up until now, I would say everything played out almost exactly to the T, right? We were at the time we were here and we were anticipating a run up that as long as it remained above here, we were going to run up to 180.05, I think the number was. It overshot it by about 15 or 20 cents. Not complaining. The strategy was buy here, long here. Keep in mind, we had already cashed out the 300 plus gainer. So I was just trying to see like, okay, well, we can still continue to run up, but I felt like there was a chance that we fall into a consolidation, as is typical after pretty nice runs. Another thing, before we move on, keep in mind, and I talked about this recently with a pal of mine, but really it's like if you think about it, the breakouts are really the anomaly because the market actually consolidates 85 to 90% of the time. Think of it like this. We had over the course of the 20 days, we had about 3 days, not even 3 full days, but we can say 3 full days, which is about 15% of the 20-day mark, right? So we had 15% of that was a rally mode. Other than that, it's consolidation, right? So as traders, I feel like we really should know more about consolidation than trying to find rallies all the time. But that's just me. So, I anticipated, okay, we're going to get into this and let me start to track it. And, I would start with the hypothesis, and getting us down here would have been here. So even here, I had a problem with this setup because this would have only garnered enough momentum or enough of a push to maybe get to 58. And even look, even with the double top, which is actually the scenario we would want to see to get us a little further in, it's even struggling there. All right, so I think that's telling it shows how strong not only support has been, but the momentum is fairly strong. So just the movement itself tells us what may or may not happen, right? So I would just say this: as long as it's under this 168.74, it is in the bearish zone, so it can continue to drop here. It can go all the way into the 60s, lower 60s. Even getting into the 58 is not an easy task. I'll tell you that. It could be one of those things where if we do run down, we're probably running down with some speed. We touch and go. And this may actually be like a 1, 2, 3, quick jump on that. And potentially, if it's going to finish out and go deep, well, then it would have to go probably on the last and fifth wave just before the announcement. And at that point, we're probably running back up. But keep in mind, this was never me calling like, oh, this is going to happen, because even now we see that it's struggling. But in order to get the best trade, this was the idea, right? So let's go through this again. So obviously we didn't know anything past here. So once this happened, I did notice that there was a gap that opened up here, which at the time was not bad because it actually opened up a new scenario. So just so you guys can see the evolution of the consolidation, you start with something, but it can morph into different things. So at this point, we had the gap that kind of changed the whole dynamic right here. Not only did it allow for the potential to enter a bullish range, a bullish zone, anytime above 77, it was going to be bullish with the threat of breakout, right? But if this was scenario 3, the coming up to touch this, you could say that scenario 3.1 would have been a double top rejection that actually sent us straight down into the zone. That could have been 1. Or the 3.2, which was almost like what happened here, where it held this pushback. I would say it went a little deeper than I would have liked, but it held the pushback and then pushed forward, right, into the 185, 190. That's what could have happened here. But like we discussed in this video right here, that anytime you come into a dynamic where you're about to touch untouched resistance, and in this case, it hasn't been touched. We haven't been up into this zone, into this price point since February of 2025, right? So it's been about 3 months, and I think it's evident the power it can have, right? So I think a few months ago, and let me just go back real quick. So the rejections were here. So it tried to run up, rejected, try to recover, and rejected. So I said that anything above here is basically untouched since the last time we were here. And we've seen how strong those rejections were, right? So it came, and look at how strong that rejection was, got us all the way down here. So I was expecting something of a pullback. I don't think it's... Hence why I was like, you know what, to really get up there, we're going to need some, like a boomerang effect where we come down into support and really get it going. Just because look at what it did, just barely touching it. Not this time not so much as last time, but last time we went from this price point all the way down to the lows, right? So it wasn't like without some strength. And even now, although it doesn't seem like it did engulf the entire range. Right, so it almost brought it to its knees. It's still hanging on. We're actually just above it now, kind of flirting with that re-entry. See, this is what tells me that is so resilient, because any other time, if this is not bullish, this, as soon as it comes down here, it just melts. And somehow it's really holding on tightly, which is not a bad thing. But the way I feel is that we got everything we wanted to see to open up the possibility. Now it's just really up to the market. If you could ever ask for a topping pattern for the short term that would suggest you can get a deep retrace, this is it. And if we can't get it here with all of this, you went from potential head and shoulders to now you have a double top, maybe even a double head and a shoulders, right? Which is not uncommon. That's just, to me, tells me that it looks pretty strong. But the underlying bull can be much stronger. But it does come with risk, right? Because if we do not come down and we rely on just the strength that's here, that's built up, that's already been overcome, with just a little bit here, I feel like that's actually to the detriment of the rally, because the probability to run out of steam fairly quickly exists. And, if we run straight from here to here, if we really look back, if you're going to be overwhelmed by this little bit right here, well, it's not really that little bit, there's a whole lot of it, but we're about to come into an area that's real, we're just not going to be able to overcome that. So I think, although I don't oppose running up from here, I don't care. It's if we're going to go there, I'll take the long there, and then I'll take the short. It doesn't matter to me. But if we really wanted to put up a real fight and maybe, go beyond maybe that 215 or 2.25, then I feel like it needs a little bit more juice. It needs to load up. And like I said, this is going to be probably a mistake that if the market decides to run from here, well, it's only going to end in what I envision. And this was the secondary scenario, and this would have been like if we ran up from here without loading up, because it was possible. If we ran up, then I was envisioning that we were going to get a very hard rejection down into the zone. In fact, I don't even know if we would have got that high, but that would have been the extreme. I think it would have been closer to maybe 205 or 190. You know, this whole zone could have played out like a sharp rejection back down. And it might still be. Look, it's struggling mightily to even get down, to even hold the breakdown. We're under the neckline, we're in the bear, and it cannot follow through. So that's my take on it. I mean, I don't know. Again, it was never to call for a trade. It was just to outline if we did see something like that, that's a fantastic buying opportunity, and the potential target is going to be great. All right, so that was just a recap, just to kind of play it out. But I would say still looking good. And really, it's, even though it's bouncing right here, until it's above 71, this is going to keep getting pushed back. And just keep in mind, though, anytime we are above 71, the 75 acts like a magnet in a way, and we do have the potential to, at the very minimum, hit 78, which brings us into the bullish zone. So this might just be like a little nugget that was left there to entice the bots to get it into a place where then the people can take control of it and push it further. But I'm telling you, it's really to the detriment of the market to not drop here. Trust me. I've seen this plenty of times. And if it were to run, just keep in mind that it's possible that this is going to be short-lived because there's a lot of resistance. Doesn't mean that we can't come down eventually and then at some point in life get back above here. I think it will. Yeah, sure. For sure it will. I have no doubt. Right? But if we want to eat up the majority of this, then coming down here is really going to push us higher. Right. And really, it's an ongoing battle because until it's above 300, there's resistance from here all the way to 300. It's hard to imagine that we're going to be able to bulldoze through all of that without hitting support one or two times, at least once now here to get us here, and then maybe down here in the 30s to get us the rest of the way. Right. That's my thinking. I could be wrong. Just sharing my thoughts. So happy trading.